This is always a sad time for me. We have made a full circle on this garden and now we are getting a frost tonight. So I need to pick what will ripen and still be okay and pull out the plants because I like to have it nice and neat and cleaned up long before the next season. Hello everybody, this is Deb from Just Do Something Homestead, and today I'm starting the long task of cleaning up the garden. Did you know that your green tomatoes will ripen if just given time? What you want is to find some that are not cracked. They need to be perfect, and then just move them into a warm indoors in a sunny location, and these tomatoes will ripen. My tomatoes have had a long, hard life. We started with a major drought where we had to water, and then it was so dry for months and months, only to end up with a ton of rain, and that has left them cracked and basically unusable. My chickens will eat them, but that's about as far as it'll go. So today, I'm cleaning up the garden. What I do is I pick the tomatoes that are green but will ripen, and then I also pick any tomatoes that are not rotten to feed the chickens immediately. I also cut all the strings off of my trellises because I want as much done in the fall as I can, so when spring comes, I can get right to the business of planting. A lot of these green tomatoes I am going to pick and move into my home so that they will ripen. And if they're not edible for us, they definitely will be free food for the chickens. This is also a time that I look long and hard about what I want to grow next year, what grew exceptionally well, what sold at the farmer's market, what didn't produce like I thought it would, and what did produce at a rate that was alarming that we had so many. This is actually a striped German tomato. It turns yellow and orange and pink, and these turned out to be one of the most wonderful tomatoes. So actually, I'm going to try something a little bit different, and I'm going to take some of those branches off of that tomato plant, and I'm going to root it inside and see if I can keep it alive till next year, and then plant it again. We do not like to waste food, so these will become ripened in our house. Some people wrap them in newspaper, but I found just putting them on a tray on the counter or table works just as well. My tomato plants remain to be really healthy plants. They did not get blight, they did not grow disease, and so I am going to compost the stems, the leaves, and it's actually going, I have two different compost bins. It's going down to the compost that I let stay there for at least a year. While I'm out here working, it gives me the opportunity to reflect on what we've accomplished this year and what we have yet to accomplish. And we have only lived here for 10 months. And in that 10 months, we have developed an infrastructure on this homestead so that we could actually raise our foods, our vegetables, our fruits, even our nuts. So it is pretty remarkable what we have done in just 1 year. But what is ahead of us this winter? I have some concerns. I won't say fear, but I'm concerned about heating, the costs of fuel, the cost of food. All these things we have seen go up and up. And so, as I said, we just can't afford to waste any of this food, even if it's the very end of the season. And that concern has me saving even the itty bitty tomatoes. Those West Virginia mountains are starting to show signs that winter will soon be here. And our nights are getting far colder, down into the 30s. It will not be long before we have snow. Here's a few tomatoes I'm not going to save. You don't want to save these because they're not going to ripen. And if they're touching other tomatoes, it could create the other ones to become rotten as well. Any of them that have deep, deep grooves. And these, they've fallen off the tomato plant. They're itsy bitsy and they're already mushy. So don't save these types of tomatoes. This is the second night of cleaning up the garden in the fall, and I've made a lot of progress, and people often ask me, do you pull up all that woven weave fabric? The answer is absolutely not. This fabric is going to be in our garden for, at least 5 more years. At that point, we will evaluate, if it's still pretty strong or if it's starting to get more holes in it. What you can see, these holes are the ones that we drilled and we planted in. So they are all lined up. They are ready to go for next year. And all we'll do at that point is drill it out, fill it with some rabbit poop, and plant our little tomatoes in that space. But as far as maintenance, all you have to do is sweep it. All of the waste, from clippings to grass to strings, I just sweep down to the end. Now I can easily pick out those strings and the rest goes into the compost pile. I started on the end with the tomatoes, but I'm going to work my way down. I'll probably leave these sad looking zinnias up for a little bit. They are still bringing me some beautiful flowers. In fact, there's one right there. But I'm going to leave the zinnias here because I am getting seed heads on them. And I want to be able to save the seeds to plant them next year. One thing I'm amazed at is these are nearly as tall as me. They grew so tall this year. And these are my Rutgers tomatoes. I was impressed when I said I need to evaluate what I will grow again. These Rutgers went through the same weather that my beefsteak did, but my Rutgers did not split. So Rutgers tomatoes are definitely on my short list to plant next year. Next, I have rows and rows of pepper plants. Now the pepper plants, once the weather turned colder, almost abruptly stopped producing. Now some of those, like this one right here, has some flowers, but the opportunity of it to actually get some more peppers is pretty slim. So once I finish the tomatoes, I will come through, pick the rest of the peppers, and then start pulling those plants. Now, isn't this pepper bush, I will call it a bush, absolutely beautiful? This is one of those Tabasco peppers, and so it is loaded with teeny tiny little hot peppers. And today I actually took some peppers to school for one of my students because he says, I just love hot peppers. And I said, well, I can help you out. This pepper plant absolutely became my favorite. This was gypsy peppers, and they not only produced amazing crops, but they are so good. They are tasty. They are wonderful. It's become my favorite pepper. So I am going to be actually digging up one of these pepper plants, trimming it back harshly, and replanting it to take inside for the winter. This very sad looking trellis was my cucumbers. They were amazing. They went up to the top of the trellis and hung down, and we had some of the most beautiful cucumbers this year. To clean this up, it's simply pulling off all the vines, and these will actually go into the trash. They died of probably blight. I'm not 100% sure. So I'm going to pull all them out and put them in a bag and take them to the dumpster. Any vegetable plant that you have that just suddenly overnight starts to die regardless of weather or anything else, I do not put in my compost. That is the easiest way to keep disease out of your garden. While some things are completely overproducing and finished for the season, there are other things like my Italian parsley that have just continued to outperform everything else. So I will be drying this over the weekend. This absolute beautiful trellis is my lima beans. They are growing fine. In fact, I pick some every single day. But look at these pods. They are big and they are beautiful. Have you ever shelled a lima bean? They're actually a big pain to shell, but my husband loves lima beans. And so there is nothing that compares to fresh lima beans. These are Christmas ones, so if you see a little bit of a red tint, that is why. The green beans are all finished for the season, and I'm leaving these hanging so they can dry out and I can save the seeds. And suddenly, towards the end of the season, I am completely overloaded with broccoli. Some itty-bitty heads are just starting. Others are getting much bigger, so I will be picking broccoli very soon. My kale just keeps going on and on like the Energizer Bunny, so we have lots of kale. Pumpkins are finished. Now this one, as you can see, is an odd shaped. It's small on the bottom and big on the top. So it cannot stand upright. So I did not try to sell this one, but my chickens are going to love it over the winter. So I just need to harvest it and put it in the basement. I am down to my last 7 watermelon. They've gotten pretty big, and so I will be harvesting them this weekend as well. Then after the pumpkins and the watermelon, the only thing I have left on this end of the garden is sweet potatoes. And I was waiting for the temperatures to drop. It makes it so much easier to cure them. So I will be digging them on a night that is supposed to get really cold, which I hear next week we have some cold ones coming. And then take them in, put them in plastic bags with some holes in it, and put them all around my wood stove. And that's about it. That's the end of my garden. It's a love-hate relationship. I love to garden, but I am tired. So I get to this point in the year and all I want to do is sit by a wood stove and think, wow, it was a great season. And how many green tomatoes did I pick from one row in the garden? Not one container, but 2. That is going to be a lot of tomatoes I'm able to save. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and share. And everybody, I want you to have a blessed weekend. Bye-bye.